You used to wake up before the alarm. You used to have ideas in the shower that excited you for the day ahead. You used to feel something when you accomplished things, a spark, a sense that what you were doing mattered. Now you wake up tired. The alarm feels like an assault. The shower is just water. You go through the motions of your day, and at the end of it, you cannot point to a single moment when you felt fully alive. You tell yourself, this is just getting older. You tell yourself everyone feels this way eventually. You tell yourself to stop complaining and push through. But somewhere in the back of your mind, a question lingers. When did this start? When did the colour drain out of life? When did you stop looking forward to things? You cannot pinpoint a moment because there was no moment. It happened slowly, so slowly, that you adapted to each small diminishment without noticing. The man you are today is a faded photograph of the man you were 10 years ago, and you adjusted the contrast so gradually that you forgot what vibrant looked like. What if I told you this is not inevitable? What if the exhaustion, the emotional flatness, the weight that appeared around your midsection despite your efforts, the sleep that never refreshes, the motivation that vanished, what if none of this is simply aging? What if it has a name, a measurable cause, and in many cases a solution? This is about testosterone, but not the way you have heard about it before. Not the gym bro obsession with getting huge. Not the advertisements for supplements that promise to make you a beast. This is about a hormone that touches every system in your body. A hormone that has been quietly declining in you for years. A hormone whose absence explains symptoms you have been attributing to stress, to work, to your relationship, to your personality, to age itself. Most men think testosterone is about two things: muscles and sex. If they can still perform in the bedroom, if they can still lift weights, they assume their testosterone is fine. This assumption is dangerously wrong. Testosterone is not a luxury hormone for athletic performance. It is a foundational hormone that influences your energy, your mood, your motivation, your sleep, your fat distribution, the health of your organs, your blood circulation, your bones, your brain. When testosterone is low, nothing works the way it should. And because the decline happens gradually over years, you never experience a dramatic crash that sends you to the doctor. You just slowly become less of yourself. I have spoken with men who spent years seeing psychologists for depression that never responded to therapy. Men who saw cardiologists for fatigue that had no cardiac explanation. Men who saw urologists, endocrinologists, sleep specialists, gastroenterologists, accumulating diagnoses and medications without anyone connecting the dots. And then, sometimes by accident, someone tested their testosterone. The number came back low, treatment began, and within weeks they felt like themselves again for the first time in a decade. This is the hidden epidemic that medicine largely ignores. Low testosterone is not rare. It is common and becoming more common. Environmental factors, dietary factors, lifestyle factors are driving testosterone levels down across the population. Men today have significantly lower testosterone on average than men of the same age had 30 or 40 years ago. Something has changed, and it is not just that we are getting older. Let me take you through what low testosterone actually does to the male body, system by system, symptom by symptom. Some of what I describe will resonate immediately, some will surprise you, all of it matters. Let us start somewhere unexpected: your bladder. If you're waking up multiple times per night to urinate, if you feel like you need to go but then produce only a weak stream, if you never quite feel empty, if you experience false urges that lead to nothing, you probably assume this is a prostate problem. You might have been told you have prostatitis, inflammation of the prostate. You might be taking medications for an enlarged prostate. But here is something most doctors do not explain clearly. The prostate is a hormone-dependent organ. Testosterone is essential for maintaining its health and function. When testosterone is low for extended periods, the prostate does not enlarge in the dangerous way people fear. It actually changes in ways that impair its function. The tissue becomes less healthy. The muscles that control urination weaken. The coordination between bladder and prostate deteriorates. High testosterone, within normal physiological ranges, supports a healthy prostate. Low testosterone contributes to the urinary dysfunction that men accept as inevitable aging. Some men undergo surgeries for urinary problems that might have been prevented or improved by addressing the underlying hormonal deficiency. Now look at your face in the mirror. How often do you shave? Think back 5 years, 10 years. Has the frequency changed? Facial hair is exquisitely sensitive to testosterone. The beard is one of the most visible markers of male hormone status, which is why it appears at puberty when testosterone surges and why it responds to hormonal fluctuations throughout life. If you are shaving less often than you used to, if your beard grows more slowly, if the coverage seems patchier, this is not random variation. This is your face telling you something about your hormones. The relationship between testosterone and hair is complex because testosterone also influences scalp hair, and this is where many men make a critical error. They notice hair loss on their head and take medications designed to block testosterone conversion, specifically the conversion to dihydrotestosterone or DHT. These medications can slow hair loss, but they come with costs that extend beyond the listed side effects. DHT is not a waste product. It serves functions in the male body, including in prostate health, in sexual function, in mood. Blocking it systemically to save hair may protect the scalp while causing problems elsewhere. The choice is personal, but it should be informed. You cannot manipulate one hormone without affecting the entire system. Now look at your body. Stand sideways in front of a mirror. What do you see? If you see a belly that has grown despite your efforts, if you see arms and legs that seem thinner than they used to be, while your midsection expands, you are seeing the signature body composition change of low testosterone. This pattern, thin extremities with central obesity, is not just aesthetically frustrating, it is metabolically dangerous. The fat that accumulates around your abdomen is visceral fat, fat that wraps around your internal organs. This is not passive tissue. Visceral fat is hormonally active. It produces inflammatory signals. It converts testosterone to estrogen through an enzyme called aromatase. This creates a vicious cycle. Low testosterone promotes visceral fat accumulation. Visceral fat further lowers testosterone by converting it to estrogen. The more belly fat you gain, the lower your testosterone drops. The lower your testosterone drops, the more belly fat you gain. Breaking this cycle requires addressing both the fat and the hormones, because addressing only one often fails. Some men with low testosterone experience the opposite problem. They become extremely thin, losing muscle mass they cannot rebuild no matter how much they eat or train. This is sarcopenia, the loss of skeletal muscle, and testosterone is one of its primary drivers. Muscle is metabolically expensive tissue. The body does not maintain it without hormonal signals telling it to. When testosterone is low, the body sees muscle as a luxury it cannot afford. It breaks down more than it builds. You lift weights, you eat protein, you do everything right, and still you shrink. The gym becomes discouraging because nothing works. The effort goes in, but the results do not come out. I hear this constantly from men in their 40s and 50s. They trained for years with good results. Then something changed. They kept training, sometimes even harder, and the progress stopped. They plateau, then decline. They assume they have reached their genetic limit, or that age has simply caught up with them. But their genetic limit was not reached. Their hormonal support was withdrawn. With normal testosterone, these same men often begin making progress again. The weights that had stalled for years start moving. The muscle that refused to appear starts growing. Not because they discovered a new training method, but because their body finally had the signal it needed to respond to training. Beyond the muscles themselves, testosterone supports the connective tissues that hold the body together. Your tendons, ligaments, joints. If you have noticed that injuries happen more easily than they used to, that recovery takes longer, that your knees ache without clear cause, that your shoulders feel unstable, consider the hormonal component. Testosterone promotes collagen synthesis. It supports the repair and maintenance of connective tissue. When it is low for extended periods, these tissues weaken. They become more vulnerable to strain and injury. They heal slowly and incompletely. This is damage that can become irreversible if ignored long enough. Tendons that degenerate, joints that wear down, these do not fully regenerate even when testosterone is restored. The earlier you address the deficiency, the more tissue integrity you preserve. Wait too long, and you may be managing chronic pain and dysfunction that did not need to happen. Now let us talk about something men rarely discuss but often experience. Temperature regulation problems. You sweat constantly, even when the room is cool, or you feel cold when everyone else is comfortable. You experience hot flashes, sudden waves of heat that seem to come from nowhere. You wake at night drenched in sweat. These are not random glitches, these are symptoms of hormonal imbalance affecting your thermoregulatory system. The hypothalamus, the part of your brain that regulates body temperature, is sensitive to sex hormones. When testosterone drops, the thermostat malfunctions, the set point becomes unstable, your body overreacts to small temperature variations. You sweat when you should not, feel cold when you should not, experience flushes that have no external cause. These symptoms are well documented in women during menopause, when estrogen declines. They occur in men too when testosterone declines, but because we do not have a cultural framework for male hormonal transitions, men experience these symptoms in confusion and isolation. They do not connect the sweating to the belly fat, to the fatigue, to the mood changes. They treat each symptom as a separate mystery. Speaking of mood, this is perhaps where low testosterone does its most insidious damage. The emotional flattening, the loss of motivation, the disappearance of drive. You used to have ambitions that felt alive in you, goals that created energy when you thought about them. Now the goals seem abstract, distant, not quite real. You go through the motions because you remember that you are supposed to want things, but the wanting itself has faded. Hobbies no longer interest you. Social gatherings feel like obligations rather than pleasures. You cancel plans because the effort of engaging with people seems to exceed the reward. You're not sad exactly. Sadness would at least be something. You feel empty, grey, like someone turned down the saturation on your entire experience of being alive. This is not depression in the classical sense, though it often gets diagnosed and treated as depression. This is hormonal anhedonia, the loss of pleasure that occurs when the endocrine system stops producing adequate signals. Testosterone influences dopamine pathways in the brain. It affects the reward circuitry that makes activities feel worthwhile. When testosterone is low, dopamine signaling diminishes. Things that should feel good fail to register. You can achieve something significant and feel nothing. You can do something you used to love and wonder why you bothered. Many men in this state end up on antidepressants. Sometimes these help somewhat, because they do affect neurotransmitter balance. But if the root cause is hormonal, treating only the neurotransmitters is like mopping the floor while the faucet runs. You manage the symptom without addressing the source. Some men take antidepressants for years, never quite feeling right, never understanding why the medication helps a little but not enough, and then their testosterone gets tested, and the answer becomes clear. Sleep is another casualty of low testosterone, though the relationship runs both ways. When testosterone is low, sleep quality suffers. You have difficulty falling asleep. You wake multiple times during the night. You feel unrested in the morning no matter how many hours you spent in bed. You experience daytime sleepiness so heavy that you nap when you never needed naps before. The desire to nap is not laziness. It is a body that cannot recover properly during the night seeking recovery during the day. But poor sleep also lowers testosterone. Sleep is when testosterone is primarily produced. Deep sleep in particular is essential for hormonal restoration. If you are not sleeping well, your testosterone production suffers. This creates another vicious cycle. Low testosterone impairs sleep. Poor sleep further lowers testosterone. Breaking this cycle often requires addressing both sides simultaneously, improving sleep hygiene while also supporting hormonal health. Now we arrive at the topic everyone expects in a discussion of testosterone. Sexual function. Yes, testosterone affects libido. Yes, it affects erections. Yes, these are often the symptoms that finally drive men to seek help. But the sexual changes are more nuanced than simply being unable to perform. Libido declines gradually. You might not notice it as decline because you adapt. You stop seeking sexual experiences as often. You stop thinking about sex spontaneously. The fantasies that once populated your mind grow quieter. You might still be able to perform if initiated by a partner, so you do not consider yourself dysfunctional. But the desire, the drive, the hunger has faded. You can function, but you do not want to. Erections weaken, not necessarily to the point of complete failure, but to the point of unreliability. Morning erections, which are actually a sign of healthy nocturnal testosterone activity, become less frequent. The erections you do achieve feel less firm, less insistent. You might need more direct stimulation to achieve what once happened spontaneously. Orgasms, when they occur, feel less intense. The experience that used to be electric now feels muted. Here is where confusion enters. Many men cannot distinguish between I cannot and I do not want to. They assume that if they can still perform, the problem is desire, and if the problem is desire, the problem is psychological or relational. They blame themselves, their partner, their relationship. They think they have fallen out of love. They think they are bored. They think they need novelty. They seek stimulation elsewhere, through pornography or affairs, looking for the excitement that has vanished. But the excitement has not vanished because of their partner. It has vanished because of their hormones. This leads to relationship damage that did not need to happen. Men grow distant from partners they actually love because the hormonal drive that created connection has diminished. Partners feel rejected, unwanted, confused about what changed. Conversations happen where both people try to identify the problem, circling around psychological explanations that never quite fit. The problem is biological, but neither person has the framework to see it. The relationship suffers damage, sometimes irreparable, from a medical issue that could have been identified and treated. The psychological impact extends beyond relationships. Depressive states that resist therapy, emotional burnout that does not recover with rest or vacation, chronic fatigue that no amount of sleep resolves. Some men are placed on psychiatric medications they do not need because no one tested their hormones. They are treated for mental illness when they have an endocrine deficiency. The medications may blunt the symptoms while doing nothing for the cause. These men spend years, sometimes decades, managed rather than healed. I want to emphasize something that makes all of this harder to recognize. Testosterone decline happens slowly. It does not crash overnight. It decreases by perhaps 1 to 2% per year starting in your 30s. Each individual year the change is imperceptible. You do not wake up one morning feeling dramatically different. You just gradually, imperceptibly, become a slightly diminished version of yourself. And because the change is slow, you adapt. You lower your expectations. You redefine normal. You forget what vibrant felt like because it has been so long since you felt it. This gradual adaptation is the main danger. Men lose health, vitality, capability, and quality of life over years and decades while believing that what they experience is simply the natural consequence of aging. They see other men their age struggling with the same issues and assume this confirms their belief. Everyone feels this way eventually. No one told them that everyone feeling this way might mean everyone is deficient, not that deficiency is normal. This is why testing matters, and why testing early matters. The ideal time to establish your testosterone baseline is when you feel good, not when you already feel terrible. If you test when you are young and healthy, you know your personal optimal level. Years later, if you begin experiencing symptoms, you can compare your current level to your historical baseline. A testosterone level that falls within the laboratory reference range might still represent a significant decline from where you personally functioned best. The reference ranges themselves are problematic. They are based on population averages that include all the men with undiagnosed deficiencies. A range that extends from 300 to 1,000 nanograms per deciliter, for example, tells you almost nothing about what is optimal for you. You could be at 350, technically normal, but down from the 650 you had a decade ago. The reference range says you are fine. Your body knows otherwise. Medical system problems extend beyond reference ranges. Many doctors are not trained to think about hormones in the nuanced way that symptoms require. They run a single testosterone test, see a number within range, and tell you nothing is wrong. They do not consider that testosterone fluctuates throughout the day, that a single measurement may not capture your true status, that other hormones in the system, like sex hormone-binding globulin and estradiol, and free testosterone, affect how the total testosterone number should be interpreted. They do not analyze the hormone panel as a system. They look at individual numbers in isolation. Treatment, when it is offered, is sometimes poorly managed. Hormone replacement is powerful medicine that requires monitoring and adjustment. Done well, it restores vitality. Done poorly, it creates new problems. Men deserve providers who understand the complexity of hormone optimization, who test regularly, who adjust protocols based on symptoms and not just numbers, who see the whole patient rather than a lab result. This complexity is why I hesitate to make this about treatment specifically. Testing is the first step. Understanding is the first step. Recognizing that your symptoms might have a hormonal explanation is the first step. What follows depends on your individual situation, your levels, your health status, your goals, your access to knowledgeable medical care. But you cannot address what you do not identify. And right now, countless men are living with low testosterone without knowing it, attributing their decline to age, to stress, to character flaws, to anything except the measurable, treatable deficiency that actually explains their suffering. Testosterone is not just about how you feel now, it is about your long-term health. Testosterone protects your heart, it supports healthy cholesterol profiles, it promotes vascular function. Men with low testosterone have higher rates of cardiovascular disease. Testosterone protects your bones, it maintains bone density. Men with low testosterone develop osteoporosis, a condition we associate with elderly women, but which affects men too. Testosterone protects your brain. It supports cognitive function, memory, mental clarity. Low testosterone is associated with increased risk of dementia and cognitive decline. Testosterone protects your prostate, despite decades of misguided fear that testosterone causes prostate cancer. Current research does not support that fear. Healthy testosterone levels appear to support prostate health, not threaten it. This is not about vanity. This is not about becoming some idealized version of masculinity. This is about maintaining the physiological conditions that allow your body to function as it was designed to function. It is about protecting organs and systems that depend on hormonal signaling that is no longer adequate. It is about longevity, about adding not just years to your life, but life to your years. When you see elderly men who remain vital, active, mentally sharp, physically capable well into their 80s and 90s, you're often seeing men whose hormones remained robust longer than average, whether through genetics or lifestyle or intervention. When you see men who decline rapidly after 60 shuffling into frailty and fog, you're often seeing the cumulative impact of hormonal deficiency that began decades earlier and was never addressed. The trajectory is not fixed. It can be influenced, but it must first be recognized. So here is what I want you to take from this. The symptoms you've been experiencing are not inevitabilities. The fatigue, the weight gain, the muscle loss, the joint pain, the mood changes, the sleep problems, the urinary issues, the temperature dysregulation, the loss of drive and motivation and joy. These are not the price of getting older. They are often the symptoms of a deficiency that can be measured and addressed. You do not have to accept the gradual draining of your vitality. You do not have to watch yourself fade and tell yourself this is normal. You deserve to know what your hormones are doing. You deserve to understand the system that governs so much of your physical and mental experience. You deserve to make informed decisions based on data rather than assumptions. Get tested. Not because you already feel terrible, but because you want to know your baseline while you still feel reasonably well. Compare your levels over time. Notice the symptoms that correlate with changes. Find a provider who understands hormone health and does not dismiss your concerns because your numbers fall somewhere within a broad reference range that means little. And if you are already experiencing the symptoms I have described, if this discussion has illuminated patterns you'd not connected, do not wait. The decline is slow, but it is cumulative. The connective tissue damage, the bone loss, the cardiovascular changes, some of these become difficult to reverse if they progress too far. Early intervention preserves more than late intervention. The man you could still be is waiting for you to take action. Testosterone is not a performance-enhancing drug for athletes. It is an essential hormone for men. Its decline is common, but not inevitable. Its effects are pervasive, but not untreatable. Its measurement is simple, but often overlooked. The gap between what you experience and what you could experience might be smaller than you think. A blood test, a conversation, a treatment protocol, and the colour returns. The fog lifts. The drive reignites. The body starts working the way you remember it working years ago, before you forgot what that felt like. You adapted to the decline because you had no choice. Now you have a choice. You can continue adapting, lowering your standards each year, accepting less energy, less motivation, less joy, less life. Or you can investigate, can test, can understand, can intervene. The man you were is not gone. He is waiting for the signal to return. That signal has a name. It is the hormone that makes men who they are, and you deserve to know what yours is doing.